Are the vibes off at the Logan Square Farmers Market? It's a question that's been hounding the summertime favorite now in its second week. I was dispatched to investigate and see what we're dealing with. The fit here is Yugoslav gymnasts, in case you were wondering. The modern farmers market suffers from the same Deborian crisis as do many of urban living's little joys. An activity that once had an explicit streamlined goal, to buy tomatoes from farmers, now suffocates between the many lacquers and varnishes coated on top of it by larger forces dictated by our beloved free market economy. I handed over my bike to the complimentary bike valet and set off to see what was new. First impressions were fine. Old mainstays like the sign with the chicken shitting out eggs was still there, as were some of my favorite vendors. I always stop at this French guy's stall, and a few years ago it seemed as though we were on the verge of developing rapport. But back in 2020, right as I was about to introduce myself for the first time and thank him for his many years providing foie gras and rillettes, he politely pointed at my crotch and informed me that my zipper was down. Now I cross my fingers and hope he doesn't recognize me whenever I buy my pâté. The farmer's market was, at one point in time, a place where you could go to buy produce directly from its creator, circumventing the middleman of the grocery store, thereby giving customers access to fresher, cheaper goods. And as organizers seem intent on demonstrating, that's still technically possible. The newly expanded market, now stretching down Kedzie from the Logan Monument all the way down to Fullerton, is bookended very deliberately by traditional produce stalls, clearly an attempt to temper the growing critique that the market has lost sight of its core mission. One time a few years ago, I stood behind Patrick Kane and his girlfriend at this stall waiting to buy zucchini. I have a strict do not bother celebrities in public policy, but once they'd left, I asked the guys running the place if they knew who that was. They did not. That story doesn't shed much insight as to the current health or vitality of the farmer's market, but I just wanted to let you know that I've stood within 2 feet of a future Hall of Famer. The current controversy in which the Logan Square Farmers Market now finds itself involved has to do with the increased number of non-food vendors now granted access to the weekly event, giving the whole thing a vibe less like a traditional farmer's market and more like a thoroughly commercialized street festival. There are fewer farmers and more general hawkers of non-edible goods. It's not my intention here to pass judgment on that change. I have friends trying to make a living selling vintage clothes, candles, and the like, and it only makes sense that they try to make space for themselves whenever possible. It ain't easy out there. What I think is worth unpacking, however, is the general transformation of run-of-the-mill services into experiences. The service theoretically provided by the farmer's market, again, access to cheap produce in your neighborhood straight from the source, no longer exists, having given way to the experience of a cute Sunday morning out with your friends. That distinction is important because the expectations people have when paying for a service are generally different than when paying for an experience. The original service of the farmer's market is more or less negated by increased access to local organic produce elsewhere, at higher quality supermarkets and co-ops, along with the simple fact that it's now arguably more expensive to buy your lettuce at the farmer's market than it is the grocery store. Thus, vendors have no choice but to lean into the experience factor. The deal is that you'll now pay more money for produce simply because it's at the cute outdoor farmer's market rather than the dull, boring grocery store. You pay $11 for a baguette now, not because you need that service, but because you like the experience of putting that bread in your reusable tote and enjoying it in the park with your friends. You wait in line for a bagel not because it's the cheapest, most convenient way to get breakfast, but because you get a kick out of discovering and supporting a new small business. I asked a few people how much they paid for their bagels and cream cheese. One woman said around $11, with a few optional veggies added on, admitting it was more for the vibe than any perceived quality or convenience. One guy said he didn't even know. I don't blame him for that. It's no secret that card readers and digital wallets have proliferated at this theoretically earthy, more in touch with nature event. But it should come as no surprise as well. When you transact at the farmer's market, it's not about the money you're paying or the goods you're receiving. It's about the transaction itself. It's about the satisfaction you get from tapping your smartwatch on the Square reader and walking away with a fun little treat and the pleasure of knowing you supported someone's passion. It's not about getting a good deal. It's about the subconscious reassurance that we still live in a world in which there's any sort of deal to be had at all. Someone commented on one of my videos a while ago accusing me of just being another cynical asshole on the internet, a comment that stuck with me ever since. I really don't want what I'm saying here to be perceived that way. If anything, I'm defending the new iteration of the Logan Square Farmers Market for leaning into what we all should have known was inevitable. By all means, go have fun at the farmers market, get a nice coffee, pet some dogs, but ask questions as well. At what point should we stop acting surprised that paying $9 a pound for regular ass potatoes feels less exciting than giving your money to the gelato truck that brought a DJ? What really is the difference between someone serving overpriced hot sauce in a stall for a fucking bank? Why do we consider it so important that we keep out vintage clothing sellers, but instead hold space for the fucking overpriced tomato cartel? Don't worry, they won't get away with it for much longer.